Okay, so the internet was going in and out and then crashed. So we're back. So go ahead. We were talking about publishing externally versus internally and what that process is like.
Right. So I do have this public thing, which is this once a week, piece
Mhm.
that I write and use to communicate with the world. But then I have this other private writing that I've been doing
Mm.
really with a writing partner. So but I don't even want to share it with anybody right now.
Yeah.
I need to, it's like, I did try to share a while ago, and it felt, a year ago, whatever, when I was still working on it, it felt like serving like a half baked pie to someone. Like it was all runny and, everything spilled out when you cut a piece. And it just, people were like, "Oh, I'm interested to hear about that. I want to know more about this," which was great. But if it's a long thing, you probably end up telling them about those things they're curious about. It just doesn't have to happen in that one chapter. So I am doing this writing now by myself, but with a writing partner. So we text each other like every morning, 4 days a week at 9:30, and when we start, and we end usually an hour later, hour and a half later, and we text each other when we stop. So it's so simple.
Yeah.
I mean, but
Accountability is huge.
yeah, it helped. We both feel there's a different quality when we're writing together, when we know the other person is there. And I don't need to share it right now. I don't want to share it, but it's helping me. I kind of needed that hand holding because I was scared. I'd been away from this material for so long. I
Yeah.
did feel I wanted to go back to it, but I was also like, ugh, it's my new challenge. We were talking about the other day, it's the new upper limit. And so it's scary, but I'm doing it like, baby step by baby step. And we'll see.
I love it.
Yeah, it's good to have some private creative time.
Well, and I just also like, I don't feel like like we were talking about a little bit, like it's not such a rush. It doesn't need to be such a rush. Like I really believe in writing as healing, as a path of healing. And some things just are not meant to be rushed. And I have like a pretty solid, very fast paced of being able to process and digest and produce things. And so to actually have something that's not in that realm feels like an edge for me, and feels like I'm loving that it's not fast. Cause even Delight, when I went through that book process, it was a 9-week program. I mean, the whole thing was like, bust it out fast.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And that I'm good at. What I'm learning is to slow down and enjoy the writing as the healing, because I really do believe in that. And then when I feel, it's almost like what you said too, the kind of channeling piece is like, I'll just wake up in the morning and sit down at my table and be like, and then I'm like, send, publish, okay, go for a walk. And that is just a really different process than what's happening behind the longer term projects,
Yes.
And I think it's just important always to like be transparent about process, because there are differences. But like you said earlier, being an obliger, having that accountability is going to be so important to you, because you're not going to want to let your partner down.
Yeah.
So that will put your butt to chair. As I say with my friend Tina, we always say, what's your butt to chair work today, in the writing process? Because you can read about writing, you can think about writing.
Oh, yeah.
You can talk about writing.
That was my favorite pastime. That was my most delicious book, was about writing,
Writing, the writing process.
Reading about other people writing, not me, right? Like read. Oh, and then what do you do? And what pens do you use and paper? And what's your schedule like? I just loved it,
Oh, me too. I still love it, but it's not butt to chair.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it's so hard to get out of that time pressure thing too. It's really hard. I get it. I really empathize with people about that. I felt like, gotta do it now. People are gonna be wondering, what am I doing all this time? Like, are you doing nothing? Like, it was just this desperation, like simmering underneath. That's really not fun to live with. It's just very uncomfortable. but I think it's part of the world we live in, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's like an underlying restlessness with it all.
Yeah.
And staying relevant, like, because of social media and the ways that we're connected externally, like, relevance becomes this thing,
Um,
and it messes with my mind because 'cause I'm like, "Do I really need to be relevant?" It's something to think about is like,
yeah.
do I only fe here's what I'm saying on that. I try to push myself to not only write publicly, because that feels like that can become very addicting, and we've talked about this before, you and I actually privately, is like, it can become something you become addicted to, and then you want that praise and feedback, and then
Yes.
you're trying to stay relevant, and you're thinking, "People are waiting for me to write something," and that
Right.
can just be really distracting to the actual creative healing, digesting, writing, metabolizing process where there's more spaciousness. And I think of how many writers I know, like Ann Patchett, for example, just like people who are prolific for like my whole life. I'm not seeing them. I'm not necessarily like, I'm not personally on social in this way right now, but like posting on Instagram 500 times a day, or having that kind of, there is this kind of deep work, and I'm not seeing them like trying to be relevant. I'm seeing
Yeah.
them put out books that align with their process and who they are, and that feels like such a gift,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so
Oh,
trying
yes.
to
So many,
align
right?
to that,
What?
like trying to align my own values and practices more to deep work over a
Yeah.
lifetime rather than what we're seeing right now, which is like fast, quick, everybody can publish and put stuff out. And that's part of what self-publishing, that's part of the shadow of it. There's a light, and it's easy to get things out, and it's so wonderful. And there's a dark, which is it could look like if you're not publishing all the time. Um,
Mm,
you see what I'm saying?
yeah.
Because we've kind of taken away some of that
Yeah.
longevity. It's so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important though to have your time with yourself away from social media, away from all
Yeah,
the interaction. And the pandemic has
yeah,
given that
yeah,
to some people, and
yeah,
some people have welcomed it.
yeah,
The break from the constant interaction and need for feedback or expectation for all that stuff. But yeah, a lot of writers don't have social media
no,
accounts. And yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's like,
yeah,
I get it. I get why they don't.
yeah,
You
yeah,
have to be with
yeah,
yourself. Like, that's where you're going to make your creative work. You have to make that connection. And when you're so distracted by what other people are doing, it's you're just like, wait, where was I again? You need time, like you say, to marinate in your own soul. Yeah.
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 Okay. Anything final you want to say before I have you close out with a prayer from page 82? I want you to read this whole beautiful thing to us.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorites. Yeah, no, nothing. I appreciate being here, and it's been really
Thank
fun
you.
talking. And
So fun. Thank you. Thank you. All the talk about all soul and writing and creativity for all of our days, I hope.
yes, it's the best.
Hmm.
Okay, so this one was written on April 23rd,
Mhm.
2020. It was probably, they were talking about when we would open back up. This is when we were in lockdown. But the idea of opening back up was in the air. The world is quiet, like a wintry day when feathery snowflakes fall one by one until everything is thick and round, telling us to stay home, go back to bed, play. Every weekend now is a family weekend. Every meal is a table set for 7. Every night, children are all safe in their beds. Now is a time when it feels natural to write a letter by hand, to call a friend and talk long, to make rolls from flour and salt when the shelves are bare. But how can I love this life when it's covered with the blood of sacrifice? How can I know this joy when it is lifted from the shoulders of misery? I confess that I dread the glorious day when normal life opens up again, when our calendar will be colonized like a strategy game being played by ourselves and others on the territory of our lives. When I will once again take up battle with my princesses about what they're wearing, where they are going, and who they are with. When I am alone in the crowd and feel like a girl in a rushing windstorm, trying to find my way home. I am powerless to direct the evolution of the world. The only thing left to do is ask. May this time change me. May it open me to suffering I have not let myself feel, to beauty I have not stopped long enough to see. Show me how to sit in my own heart, so that when it is time, I may walk gently into this new world and not lose my way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pleasance.
So beautiful.
It's great to be here.
Thank you. Everyone, get the book. See you soon, Aim.
Bye.
Thanks.